Bronwen, Vearncombe, welcome to the TED Talks YouTube channel. You have been on my podcast before with your partner, and that was 8-9 months ago, I think.
At least, yeah.
And it was a very interesting story. Not, I mean, for many reasons, but the main one which appealed to people was the fact that, you both travel the world, operate your business from wherever. Of course, you have a base here and a business here, but you could be anywhere, and I think you were somewhere exotic when we spoke.
Whit Sundays.
Well, there we go.
Australia.
So welcome back. Now, you have a book which I've read, and I actually think it's really, really good. I say actually because I don't often have, great things to say about property books. I find a lot of them are kind of like just leading into a course, or they kind of give you this and give you this, and they don't give you the full details. But with yours, the case studies in particular were great. There we go, everyone watching. And actually, it was really well printed. Most like sort of property books are just sort of, I don't know, they don't feel as nice. And I did enjoy the tactileness of it. But
Good
I
feedback.
really liked, no, of course, I really like the case studies because, like, I think for a lot of people, it's easy for you to talk and me to talk and say stuff, but without the numbers and without the reality, what does it mean? So, on the topic of your book, Building Your Dream Life, and, working on how to start your property business, there's a very broad question. So for everyone listening, this could take any sort of route. But what sort of things should beginners, when I say beginners, I mean people who, maybe have one property, maybe have none, maybe accidental landlords, maybe people who are just like, oh, property sounds good. What kind of key things should they do at the start of their business and their journey to really make sure that they can then continue it really effectively?
It's a really good question. And for me, it was only 6 years ago. And I know for some people that sounds like forever. But, with a lot of property gurus out there, they've been doing this thing for a long, long time. I still feel like a bit of a newcomer at times. But 6 years ago, I had no knowledge of property investing, absolutely zero. And I started, thinking, well, money in the stocks and shares isn't doing very much. I'd inherited a little bit of money, and I thought, well, if I sell those shares and use this money, I've just got enough to scrape to buy a flat in Winchester. And it was literally that, and then I've got this responsibility. I better do some learning. So, I learned that way, and then I went to so many different people to go, who do I learn with? And it's a nightmare out there, and it's worse today than it's ever been, I think. But to answer your question, I would say, really think carefully about your money. Very important. Finance. I know there's people out there say you can replace your income with no money. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. You do need to get your house in order, check your credit file, because doing property and using the best that you can of gearing and, using mortgages, then you do need to have a good credit rating. You do need to make sure you've got enough money for deposits. And there's no getting away from that, is there? So to start off with, really think quite carefully about getting your house in order, checking your credit file, and starting to think about what's the best way you like to learn, who you're going to learn with, how, what. There's a lot of free resources, of course, out there. There's books, of course, but which book? There's thousands. So it's start doing some research. Think about networking. That's really important. Start talking to other people that do this, that maybe have got one or two rental properties or just starting out even, and find out what research they've done. And always do your due diligence on people. And I think my due diligence, I went to the free courses, I went to the seminars, and I was told I could buy a house with a credit card and all that rubbish. I thought, nah, they don't meet my values, so I'm not gonna learn with them, no matter how much they discount the price. It's not going to work. And I was really quite careful with that. Even though marketing can be very compelling at times and everyone's running to the back of the room, it's really important just to go with your instinct. Do your research, start talking to people, and just pick the phone up. If there's somebody that you think, like me, they want to learn with me, just pick the phone up, find me, in social media and just say, can I have a chat? You know, simple as that. People can talk to you, they can listen to your podcast, and do your thinking first, and then find someone with the right values that you think you can know, you can trust, and don't spend £10,000 without even thinking about it. You know, start slowly. And you know, I did learn with Simon Zucci in the end, Property Investors Network, and that worked for me. But since then, I've created my own online trainings, and that works for other people. And it's really about what's going to work for you versus what everyone else does. You know, you are important, and the way you like to learn is important. So, and we're all different, funnily enough.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a really important point there, which is we are different. And, you know, just because someone sitting next to you or your friend or one of us is doing something here or learning something here, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And the thing you said about values is interesting because, a lot of people go into these training courses and they just buy senselessly because of the marketing. I think, and again, maybe this may be controversial, but maybe people don't have their own personal values set when they walk into these rooms, which is why they get sold to so easily because they don't know what they believe in, right? Now, you said like networking and kind of, you know, doing your due diligence on people. Do you think there's a certain amount of like reading or listening that people should do before they go to courses or before they go to events, just so they come across a bit better? Or would you say just go straight in with no knowledge, nothing?
Well, I think it's always good to have read a little bit and done a bit of research beforehand so that you are prepared, particularly with the entrepreneurs, you know, methods and things out there. You know, it's good to understand that, but not get too overwhelmed by the negativity. So there's a balance here. You know, you will always find negative stuff in the media. You know, doesn't like landlords. They hate us, you know, and they're always saying, you know, oh, the tax means it doesn't work anymore, and you know, us horrible landlords and how nasty we are to tenants. You know, it's not true. You just need to be careful what you listen to at the same time. But yeah, I think go along, but sit on your hands. Don't get that credit card out. Don't even take your credit card, because there's always a 30-day cooling off or 2-week cooling off period, no matter what. So, you know, just be careful that the deals will always be there after the event. You just don't believe, you know, that it's not. So go along and listen, and then go home and think about it. Pick the phone up to me. I know so many, you know, it's a small world. I know a lot of people out there, and I get great feedback from people that learn with me about, you know, their experiences. So yeah, go along, by all means, go along. If it's not going to cost you anything, go along and listen, because you will pick up good lessons. You absolutely will. But just don't get the credit card out at the end of it. That's my advice, really.
Yeah, I think it's sensible advice, and I think it's advice that if more people followed, as much as some trainers are not good, there would be less complaints, and there'd probably be more success that was evident in the kind of world and when you look around at the internet. So, you know, when people are starting out, a common, you know, question among many is, what strategy do I do? So, and again, this answer obviously depends on the person, things like that. But in your opinion, is there a way in which they can, you know, deduce which strategy they should do?
Oh yes, and that's through really understanding what your goals are, what you want to achieve, in what sort of time scale, and also what level of risk you're comfortable with. And again, everybody's different. So I think the key is to have those conversations very, very early on and set your goal and what you want to achieve. And when you work backwards, you can quite easily, when I talk to people and do the first coaching session, it's really all about them. And what are they interested in? Which part of the country do they know really well? It's not necessarily where they live, but where they went to university or where they've got, you know, they've got friends. And then it's really, you know, what level of risk you're comfortable with, because not everybody wants to do the complicated stuff because it feels a little bit too difficult. And you've got to go at your own pace. So, you know, start with something a little bit simpler. And if you've done no investing at all, even if you don't even own your own home, you do need to start slowly. And if you're looking to get a mortgage, mortgage companies want to see that you've got a bit of experience under your belt. So if you don't own a home, then really that first property needs to either be something you buy for yourself or is a first buy to let. And once you've got one property and one buy to let mortgage product, then you're deemed to have experience. So it gets a little bit easier after that. But I think one thing I forgot to say earlier about when you're starting out is find somebody to learn with who's already doing this, who's already an investor. There are lots of people out there teaching this stuff, and that's their main job. They don't actually do it themselves. And you've got to think carefully about, well, is that, is that good? Is that a good idea? They may have had experience in the past, but their main income's coming from teaching. So I would say find somebody who's investing as well, who's doing it today, doing it now, and knows what's happening out there in the marketplace.
And I think it should be easy to find them, because basically all of my guests fit that profile, because I only get people on who, like yourselves, like anyone else, who is still doing it now. Most of them don't even teach, but they'd all have a conversation, they'd all give you some guidance. And of course, there's things like this. There's YouTube channels. There's loads of things you can do to get that education. But what you said was really key, is that, like, take it slow. Again, marketing will say you can have it in this amount of time. You can do this. You can do that. But we both know from experience, the reality is it will take this much to research it. But once you get the first one and it momentums and it snowballs, then it can happen, quite quickly. Those foundations take time to build from the ground up. So this has been the first video that I'm doing with Bronwen. There will be another video which is probably aimed at people who are more experienced in property development, talking about a very interesting strategy. So stay tuned for that.